Hello, you're welcome to the African Weekly Market Review. My name is Sami Kofi Ampa. I'm doing this with
Anna Maria Nyame. Starting with Nigeria, whose all-share index gained 0.8% to close the week at 39,299 on the back of the gains in Forte Oil, who gained 21.4%, Access Bank gained 10.9%, and Transcorp Nigeria 8.7%. During the week, losses were recorded in Sterling Bank, who lost 12.6%, Fidelity Bank 5.2%, and Corn Oil 5.2%. The top traders by value were Nigerian breweries, whose equivalent in US dollars was 14.8 million, Zenith Bank 9.5 million US dollars, and Guarantee Trust Bank 9.3 US dollars. Trading in these shares accounted for 44.6% of this week's turnover in 12.1 billion naira, whose equivalent is $75.3 million. The average weekly value traded in the last 6 months is 20.1 billion Nigerian naira, and the NSE All-Share Index is down by 4.9% year to date, and the total market capitalization is currently 77.6 billion US dollars.
Still in Nigeria, the shares of Seplat Petroleum were listed on the Nigerian stock market, and London stock market browsers during the week. A total of 543.3 million shares were listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange at a rate of 576 naira per share and gained 15.8% to close the week at 666.7 naira on strong investor demand.
Moving on with Ghana, the Ghanaian equity market lost in excess of 400 million Ghana cedi, whose equivalent is 148.7 million US dollars in the week under review, as the market capitalization of the benchmark index tumbled to an 11-week low. Investors intensified selling pressures as a combination of weakness in the macroeconomic environment and a general perception that Ghanaian equities are currently overvalued fueled further decline of the border market. The GSE Composite Index consequently declined by 2.3% week on week to 2,284.2, its lowest level recorded since 31st of January 2014. Turnover for the week was 4.7 million Ghana cedi, which was 23.9% better than the previous week's performance. GCB was the most traded equity, accounting for 62.4% of total value traded. The market recorded price movement in 14 equities, with the advance to decline ratio skewed towards pessimism as it stood at 1:13. SPL was the only gainer for the week, with a price appreciation of 33.3%. Some of the equities on the losing end were Societe Ghana Limited, who lost 11.1%, SIC lost 8.0%, ITON lost 5.6%, Ecobank Ghana lost 4.6%, and ETI lost 4.3%.
Yes, Benzo Oil Palm Plantation has announced the payment of a final dividend of 0.0344 pesos per share for the 2013 financial year. The ex-dividend qualifying and payment date have been set for 5th May, 7th May, and 20th June 2014, respectively. The company's AGM is slated for the 9th of May 2014. We would like to move to East Africa, but before we do that, we go for a short commercial break. Do you know that there are more successful people in Ghana today than before? Well, that is the truth, and the secret is in prudent financial planning with the right financial manager. You need to know the right fund manager who spends your money 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 4 weeks in a month, and 12 months in a year. That manager is at Gold Coast Fund Management. At Gold Coast, your money never sleeps. It revolves every second to give you more money for use when you really need it. For the past 21 years, Gold Coast Fund Management has held a strong reputation of spending people's money to beat inflation, depreciation, and treasury bill rates. Put your money to work. Move from savings to investment. Pay your investment tithe into the Gold Fund and Gold Money Market Fund, and be assured that when you are in need, you can turn to them to resolve your financial problems. Gold Coast Fund Management. Investment advice worth its weight in gold.
Welcome back. Now continuing with Kenya, the FTSE NSE 15 gained 2.5% this week to 181.7. Olympia Capital gained 17%, equivalent to 4.70 Kenyan shilling. Express Kenya gained 15.3%, KES shilling 9.0, and Liberty Kenya gained 11.1%, equivalent to 19 Kenyan shilling. They were the top of the gainers, while Everready lost 7.2%, equivalent to 3.20 Kenyan shilling. TransCentry lost 5.0%, equivalent to 3.75 Kenyan shillings, and EAAGADS lost 3.4%, equivalent to 28 Kenyan shilling. They were the top decliners. Whilst we go to Safaricom, topped the value traders list, contributing to 52% to this week's turnover. The shilling weakened to 40 points against the US dollar, equivalent to 86.90 Kenyan shilling.
TPS Eastern African released its full year 2013 result. Earnings per share declined 4% year-on-year to Kenyan shilling 3.45. This is as a result of shareholder dilution of 23% following the TPS Ugandan share price swap. And full year 2013 DPS of 1.35 Kenyan shilling was declared, an increase from full year 2012 DPS of 1.30 Kenyan shilling. Profit after tax grew 18% to Kenyan shilling 669 million. Revenue grew 28% year-on-year to 6.8 billion Kenyan shilling. The slower than expected growth was caused by poor operating environment for the TPS Kenya, which was attributed to low luxury tourist numbers following the JKI fire incident, Westgate Mall attack, and grenade attacks in tourist areas in Mombasa, all of which occurred in the second half of 2013. EBIT grew 25% to 1.1 billion Kenyan shilling, where EBIT margin remained at full year 2012 levels of 16%.
Tanzania, the DAR All Share Index gained 88 points to close at 1,982.1 this week. TOL gained 12.9%, equivalent to 350 Tanzanian shilling, and MB gained 3.7%, equivalent to 2,800 Tanzanian shilling, and CRDB gained 1.6%, equivalent to 310 Tanzanian shilling. They were the top gainers, whilst DCB lost 2.0%, equivalent to 480 Kenyan shilling, and Twiga also lost 0.8%, equivalent to 2,460 Tanzanian shilling. They were the top decliners. CRDB topped the value traders list, contributing to 41% total turnover. The Tanzanian shilling weakened 34 points against the US dollar to 1,637.50 Tanzanian shilling.
Still in East Africa, in a country called Tanzania, investors expressed high appetite in the last week's 364-day treasury bill that registered oversubscription of 60%, despite a slight increment in yield rate. According to the auction result posted by the Bank of Tanzania, The amount offered for tendering was 135 billion Tanzanian shilling. The weighted average yield to maturity increased to 13.2% from 13% of the previous auction 2 weeks ago. Despite the oversubscription, only 123 bids out of the total 216 succeeded, indicating some investors offered price below the market value.
In Rwanda, the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning this week presented Focal Points Government, which seeks to drive to achieve targets for the ambitious Vision 2020 agenda. Vision 2020 is an ambitious plan to make Rwanda a middle-income economy. Presenting the roadmap to members of the Parliamentary Budget Committee, the ministry officials recalled that the blueprint was revised 3 years ago and highlighted essence of accountability and good planning. Targets that were revised include increasing agricultural production from 5.8% to 8.5%, industrial growth from 8.8% to 14%, export growth from 19% to 28%, and curbing population growth from 2.9% to 2.2%.
Now back to the Rwandan stock market. Turnover was Rwandan franc of 87.8 million Rwandan franc, which was equivalent to 129.5 thousand US dollars. The Bank of Kigali's price closed at 340 Rwandan franc, which was a loss of 6.8%, and Bralua closed at 860 Rwandan franc, which was a loss of 0.6%. Bank of Kigali dominated the market with a contribution of 96% to the total turnover on traded value of 84.4 million Rwandan franc. The Rwandan stock index closed at 262.91, a loss of 2.7% from 270.48 recorded last week. The Rwandan franc depreciated 0.05% against the US dollar to close at 677.90 from 677.54 recorded last week.
The Ugandan Stock Exchange All-Share Index gained 0.6% to close the week at 1,498.4. During the week, no movement in price was recorded. The top traders by value were BATU and Umeme, contributing to 95% to this week's turnover of 823.6 million Ugandan franc, which is equivalent to 362.8 US dollars. The average weekly value traded in the last 6 months is 2.7 billion Ugandan franc, which is equivalent to 1.1 million US dollars. The Ugandan Stock Exchange All-Share Index is down by 1.6% year to date, and the total market capitalization is currently at 1.2 billion US dollars. The Ugandan franc appreciated by 0.2% against the US dollar to close at 2,517.0.
Before we move to the South African market, finally on the Ugandan market, Stanbic Uganda released its full year 2013 results this week. The EPS declined by 21.1% year-on-year, while DPS increased 14% to Ugandan franc of 1.56. This includes full year 2013 interim DPS of 0.57 Ugandan franc. The Stanbic managing director attributed the slowdown in the bank's profit growth to the lack of effects of 2011 turbulent economic challenges, which have to date subdued demand for loans and deposit growth, coupled with high operating costs the bank incurred the previous year when it invested in a new technology platform that seeks to offer much more competitive services and products. High inflation has affected customers' ability to effectively conduct business, and businesses are still struggling to recover. Thus, demand for credit is still weak. We go for a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll be going into the South African market. Do you know that there are more successful people in Ghana today than before? Well, that is the truth. And the secret is in prudent financial planning with the right financial manager. You need to know the right fund manager who spends your money 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 4 weeks in a month, and 12 months in a year. That manager is at Gold Coast Fund Management. At Gold Coast, your money never sleeps. It revolves every second to give you more money for use when you really need it. For the past 21 years, Gold Coast Fund Management has held a strong reputation of spending people's money to beat inflation, depreciation, and treasury bill rates. Put your money to work. Move from savings to investment. Pay your investment tithe into the Gold Fund and Gold Money Market Fund, and be assured that when you are in need, you can turn to them to resolve your financial problems. Gold Coast Fund Management. Investment advice worth its weight in gold. You're welcome back. Now to South Africa. In a country called Mauritius, the SEMDEX declined 0.7% to close the week at 2,086.4 on the back of losses in banks that recorded a loss of 1%, and building that also recorded a loss of 2.1%. Notable decliners were Air Mauritius that declined 4.2%, State Bank of Mauritius declined 2.8%, and Bremer Bank also declined by 2.5%. The gaining sector were consumers that gained 0.9%. Notable gainer was Policy, which gained 2.2%, and Altio Limited gained 1.1%, with Fencop ending the list of gainers with 0.5%. Top traders by value this week were MCB with a gain of $2.8 million US dollars. State Bank Mauritius gained $1 million US dollars, and CIEL also gained 0.3 million US dollars. Trading in these shares made up of 74.5% of the shortened week's turnover of about 5.4 million US dollars. The average weekly value traded in the last 6 months was about 7.0 million US dollars, where the SEMDEX was down this week at 0.4% YTD, with a negative 0.6% in relation to the US dollars.
The Botswana Stock Exchange DCI was flat this week, closing at 8,993.3. Decliners this week were Imara Botswana, who lost 4.2%, Let's Go, who lost 2.7%, and New Africa Properties, who lost 1.4%. Balancing the decliners were recorded in Chobi, who gained 1.2%, Funmat gained 0.9%, and Barclays Botswana gained 0.5%. The total traders by value were Skeba, whose equivalent is 901.2 million USD, Choppies, whose equivalent is 457.4 million USD, and BIHL Botswana, whose equivalent is 394.8 million USD. Trading in these shares accounted for 80.6% of this shortened week's turnover of 10.7 million BWP, whose equivalent is 2.2 million US dollars. The average weekly value traded in the last 6 months is 376.1 million BWP, which is equivalent to 43.0 million US dollars. The BSE DCI is down by 0.7% year to date, and the total market capitalization is currently 36.7 billion US dollars.
It's the African Market Weekly Review Report, which was brought to you by two presenters, Samuel Kofi Ampa and
Anna Maria Nyame.
You meet at the same time next week. Have a wonderful Easter holidays.
And thanks for watching.
Do you know that there are more successful people in Ghana today than before? Well, that is the truth. And the secret is in prudent financial planning with the right financial manager. You need to know the right fund manager who spends your money 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 4 weeks in a month, and 12 months in a year. That manager is at Gold Coast Fund Management. At Gold Coast, your money never sleeps. It revolves every second to give you more money for use when you really need it. For the past 21 years, Gold Coast Fund Management has held a strong reputation of spending people's money to beat inflation, depreciation, and treasury bill rates. Put your money to work. Move from savings to investment. Pay your investment tithe into the Gold Fund and Gold Money Market Fund, and be assured that when you are in need, you can turn to them to resolve your financial problems. Gold Coast Fund Management. Investment advice worth its weight in gold.